How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day, because today we have a story of probably one of the worst Karens that I've ever received a story about. So sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's just jump right into this. I'm going to call the subscriber who submitted this story Ken. So anyways, right, this all happened when Ken was literally in 5th grade. He was just a little kid, right? And actually, some people are in 5th grade watching this. You're an adult, man. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But anyways, right, so Ken was invited over to a birthday party of another one of his friends. It was a outdoors Star Wars themed birthday party. In my opinion, it sounds pretty hype. But anyways, right, there was some Karens in the neighborhood that might have disagreed, as you guys will see. Anyways, Ken's mom is driving him over, and they have their present ready. And, they drive over, they get to the house, and there's a big sign in the front yard that says, party in the back of the house, like, just walk around to the backyard, and, the gate's open, just walk around. So anyways, right, Ken and his mom walk over, and Ken's carrying the present, and you go into the backyard, and you see all these kids around. It's kind of like Star Wars themed, so they have these, like, foam lightsabers. I used to have some as a kid. Those are fire. They have, like, stormtrooper costumes. They have a big Death Star piñata. It's fire. It's a great birthday party, right? So anyways, Ken walks over, the birthday kids, the birthday boy's mother comes over, greets them, says, thank you so much. Ken's mom says, hey, where do we put the present? Points over at a table. They go over, put the present down. And Ken's having a really good time. And honestly, everyone's having a really good time at this birthday party, and it's not that loud. I mean, first of all, it's like 2 in the afternoon. It's during the summer. They have a pool. It's not like everyone else was inside being super quiet. And it wasn't like there's a curfew at 2 in the afternoon being like, you can't be reasonably loud at 2 in the afternoon during the summer because your kids are having fun in a birthday party. That's illegal, right? That's not a thing. But apparently the Karen in the neighborhood, she didn't realize this. So anyways, right, this all happened when Ken and all of his friends were just playing around, and Ken's parents and, the other kids' parents that were there at the party were standing at the tables watching the kids play. And that's when this older woman walks through and into the party, and Ken turns around and assumes, oh, maybe this is the birthday kid's grandma, or maybe this is someone that they know. Maybe this is just an older mom. Who even knows, right? Woman walks in, and she says, who's in charge here? And immediately when she says this, Ken and probably everyone else at the party immediately knew that, something was off, that, no, this is not a friendly sight, right? This is not an ally. This is not someone on our team. This is definitely someone who doesn't want this party to succeed. So anyways, right, and just so you know, the party was not that loud. Sure, kids were jumping into the pool. Sure, some kids were running around screaming. If you live in a neighborhood during the summer and you don't hear that, then you're living in an old person neighborhood, man, with no grandkids coming over. It's a common thing to happen. They weren't being crazy loud. They weren't blasting music. But anyways, the Karen must have had nothing better to do, so she walked over, she saw the sign, and she invited herself into this kid's birthday party. So the Karen is like, who's in charge here? And, the birthday kid's mom walks over and says, hey, tries to, settle it down so the Karen doesn't make a scene. And she goes over, and she's like, hello, this is my son's birthday party. And the Karen's like, it's too loud. It's too loud. And, she's like, okay, well, I'll tell them to quiet down. I don't think it's been we've been unreasonably loud, but, just for your preference, I'll ask them to quiet down a little bit. And the Karen looks at her and then turns to all the kids and says, you kids better keep it down or you'll be hearing more from me. And you don't want to mess with me because that means you're messing with my husband. And then she kind of waddles away, right? So at this point, Ken and all the parents and all the kids there look at each other. And, the birthday kid's mom's like, all right, guys, can we just be a little bit quieter? You can keep doing what you're doing. Keep jumping in the pool. That's all good with me. But can you just be a little bit quieter so she doesn't come over again? And they're all like, yeah, totally makes sense. That's totally fair. And they just go back to doing what they're normally doing, right? Life is good again. And yeah, they don't really quiet down that much. but they weren't being loud in the first place. No one's going to jump into the pool quietly. Like, how do you jump into the pool quietly? You're going to make a splash. Do you pencil dive in every single time? Bro, cannonballs are fun. I'm sorry. Are the kids running around doing like the lightsaber games? Are they going to be completely quiet? This isn't a Buddhist monk temple, bro. You can talk. It's fine. It's not a monastery. Like, come on now. So anyways, the kids go back to being kids, as kids should, right? And once again, Ken is just, completely forgot about the Karen who came over and said, "You guys better quiet down or my husband will beat you up." Okay, she didn't say that, but you know what I mean. Ken completely forgot about the Karen, and that's until, right, they Ken hears the gate open again. Assume it's maybe new kids coming to the party that were late. Maybe someone had to step outside. Maybe, I don't know. But Ken doesn't think that it's the Karen walking through. But sure enough, right? Sure enough, the same old woman walks through again. And she's like, "Attention!" She literally screams, "Attention!" And everyone at the party, the kids, the parents, people in the pool, people playing lightsabers, everybody stops what they're doing and they turn around and they look at this Karen. And this Karen, after screaming "attention," is like, "I warned you guys to not be too loud. This is your final warning." And they all kind of looked at her like, "Bro, are you crazy?" Like, no disrespect, actually, all disrespect, but are you crazy, dude? And she's like, "And if I have to come around one more time, I'm calling the police on this party and having it shut down." And the birthday kid's mom says, goes over and says, "Ma'am, with all due respect, we're really not being that loud. These parties happen all the time." And it's true. There was a lot of families in the neighborhood, and during the summer, they had kids, and the kids were playing. Kids were being kids. That's part of being in the neighborhood with a bunch of parents, a bunch of families. That's how it goes during the summertime, man. I mean, enjoy the laughter of kids. There's much worse background noise, I don't know, nails on a chalkboard? Would you rather that be your neighborhood sound? Anyways, though, so the Karen is like, "Either way, if you guys are loud one more time, you can leave me no choice but to call the police on all of you." And at this point, people were kind of looking at each other. Ken was kind of looking back and forth like, "Oh my God, what's going on right now?" And the Karen looks at all of them and just literally points at all the kids, which, bro, point at the parents. If you're going to be doing this, fight the parents. Don't fight the kids on this. And she looks at all of them. She says, "I'm watching you all." And the Karen waddles off in her little moo-moo thing or whatever. And so the birthday kid's mom turns to all the kids and is kind of upset at this point. She's like, "Guys, you were not being too loud. Don't let that old woman tell you that. That's ridiculous. You guys are totally fine. If she's going to call the police on a kid's birthday party, then let her call the police on a kid's birthday party. Everybody go ham." And everyone was kind of in agreement because they did know that if the police were to come, they would have the police were going to show up. They were going to hear the level of noise, and they were going to realize that this old woman called the cops. They could have been, maybe they were needed somewhere else. Maybe they were needed on duty, but no, this woman decided that, because these kids were having a birthday party and enjoying, the summer fun, that they were the real problem here, and don't get it twisted. Come on now, bro. You can't seriously think that. So the police if they're going to show up, they're going to hear it, and they're going to realize it's not being a problem, and, it's going to be completely ineffective. So the birthday kid's mom is like, "Screw it. Everyone be as loud as you want. I personally don't care." So all the kids go back to doing what they're doing, and sure enough, right, the sound goes back up because, the kids just go back to playing their games. They're in the pool. They're playing lightsabers. Ken is having a good time with his friends. And that's when you hear the gate not open. The last two times the gate opened, this time it was opened with such intentional force that it slammed. And for all we know, it could have cracked or braked or something. But people heard, broke, sorry. The people heard the gate slam. So everyone immediately turns around and looks at it. And they see the Karen walking over, and this time it is like this old male Karen who is walking over too. By the way, Karen doesn't just mean female. There are plenty of male Karens, bro. They exist, and here's proof. So anyways, right, the Karen and her husband, male Karen, are both standing there. And you would have thought that the way that Karen spoke about her husband, that this guy would have been 6'8", 300 pounds, 100% muscle, 0% body fat, carrying 2 Gatling guns on his hands. Like, you would have thought that he was a crazy, or president of the United States with a drone strike ready for your face if you disagreed. But unfortunately, no, actually, fortunately, no. He was just another old Karen dude. Like, they both walk over, and the Karen starts laughing. Imagine laughing at a bunch of kids enjoying themselves. She's laughing. She's like, "You've done it now. You've done it now, haven't you? You have fallen into my trap." And everyone kind of turns around and is like, "Ma'am, did you just say fallen into your trap? Like, you're trying to trap these little kids?" She goes on to say, "I gave you 2 whole warnings that if you guys didn't quiet down with your shenanigans and crazy party," okay, if you call this a crazy party, some kids jumping into the pool and playing lightsabers, then Karen, I don't know what parties you're going to. But anyways, right, she's like, "If I told you not to quiet down, then I would call the police, and now I'm coming back with my husband. Aren't you guys intimidated?" And the Karen turns to all the kids. The kids kind of just stare back, blinking, like, "What? Is this some old Karen, bro? Like, no, I'm not intimidated. Like, what are you talking about?" She's like, "That's it. I'm calling the cops." So anyways, calls the police, right? Shows everyone 911. She picks it up. She's like, officers, please, I need you to get here now." Says the name and address of, like, the place that they were at. "Please, it's a crazy party. They're going to destroy the neighborhood. We need you here now. Oh, no." Starts this, like, fake crying bit. And you could hear the operator being like, "Ma'am, don't worry, we'll be there right away." And she turns out the phone. The Karen's like, "Ha, ha, ha, ha. This is what you get for disturbing the peace." And at this point, right, the mother of the birthday kid is pretty angry. And she's like, "Did you seriously just call the police on kids having fun, enjoying, like, their birthday party? First of all, this stuff happens all the time, right? Second of all, these are a bunch of kids, right? These are a bunch of kids at a birthday party. This is not what the officers are thinking, that you're calling in some crazy rager party that's going to actually cause damage to the city and is actually way too loud and whatever, right? These are some kids with a Star Wars themed birthday party. Like, this is going to be the biggest flop for you ever. This is going to be embarrassing for you. This is ridiculous. I can't wait to see it go down. So at this point, right, the Karen and this mom are completely beefing, and it's pretty interesting. The tension in this room you could definitely cut with a knife. But anyways, everyone's just kind of waiting. Like, they kind of just go back to doing what they're doing while, like, the birthday, because they're kind of waiting for the cops to show up. But they just go back to playing their Star Wars stuff because, I don't know, they're in 5th grade. Why would they care? And anyways, right, so the Karen and, the birthday kid's mom are kind of feuding. They're kind of yelling at each other. Not super loudly, but they're kind of, like, angrily talking. You know the difference between, like, angry talking and straight up yelling? They were angry talking. So when all of a sudden, right, they hear the gate open up a bit more politely than the Karen ever opened up that gate, and they see 2 officers walk to the back. And immediately the Karen goes, officers, thank you so much. Oh my God, you're here." And the male Karen is like, "Thank you, gentlemen, for arriving. Like, if you didn't arrive 1 minute sooner, the whole town would have been in flames," or something completely ridiculous, right? So the officers look around, and they're just looking at Star Wars piñata, foam lightsabers, a pool, and a bunch of 5th graders running around having fun. And they're just like, "What?" So they go up, and they're like, "Who called this in?" And the male Karen and the female Karen both raise their hands, and they're like, Officers, we did it." And they're like, was it, like, where's the party? Like, is it down a couple blocks or something? And Karen's like, "Can't you see? It's right in front of you. This is outrageous." Real quick, comment Karen if you made it this far into the video. I just like to see the names and faces of people who made it this far, and I'll try and heart a bunch of comments of people who do. And also, if you want to support the channel, the best way is by just sitting down and watching a bunch of videos in a row. So maybe later or after this video, just keep watching videos, and in the comment section, let me know what you're doing while you're watching these videos. I'm actually very curious, like playing a video game, are you drawing, do these videos help you go to sleep? I'm really curious. I love reading the comments and just like, I'll heart a bunch of them, whatever like that. And the little final thing I want to say is if you guys like energy drinks, and you guys like gamer subs, wait a couple days because I got a cool thing coming for you guys. But anyways, I don't want to spoil anything. Let's just get back into it. So anyways, the Karen versus police versus little kids at a 5th grader's Star Wars birthday party, right? The big menaces, of course. They're the real problem in this town. But anyways, right, the officers are kind of looking at the Karen and are like, ma'am, are you serious? And she's like, seriously upset? Yeah. And they're kind of just like, no, like, did you call us in saying that there was a crazy party that had an immediate threat to the nearby neighborhood, and this was it? And the Karen's like, yeah, what's your point? And they're like, ma'am, this is a bunch of kids playing at a birthday party, or what looks like, and he points to the presents. And he's like, if they were significantly louder than they were when I walked in, I wouldn't have even cared. But when I was walking in, I barely heard any audible noise. And the kids continue to play like in the pool. Like, kids are allowed to jump in the pool. Kids are allowed to yell and scream and talk to each other and run around. And it's 2 in the afternoon, ma'am. Do you really need your afternoon nap that bad? Like, can't you take it earlier or later or just go to bed later? Like, is it really that big of a deal? And at this point, the male Karen is like, look here, son, like back in my day, these kids would have been rounded up and thrown in jail. And the officer's like, sir, I really don't think that's what happened. He's really like, I really don't think that was a thing. He's like, are you disrespecting my authority? And the officer's like, authority? He's like, yes, respect your elders and listen to everything we say always. And the Karen's like, yeah, lock them up. And then immediately the male Karen and the female Karen start chanting, lock them up, lock them up, lock them up, lock them. And they're just pointing at the kids. And the officers are so dumbfounded that these 2 old people are chanting, lock up these kids for just having fun at a birthday party. At this point, the parents start getting really mad and they're kind of mumbling and they're yelling stuff. And the kids literally, like, Ken is like, kind of remembers part of this, but part of his memory is blurry because he was too busy in a epic lightsaber duel with his friend. Bro, those went so hard, the lightsaber duels. My dad and I used to do those every night. We'd have like the light up plastic ones. It'd be like late at night, and it'd just be like all you could really see was the lightsaber. That was so fire. That was so much fun. I'd do it again now if I could find them. But anyways, right, so at this point the officers are like, ma'am, like, can I get your name? And she's like, is this for a civic award for reporting the worst crime ever? They're like, no. In fact, we're getting your name so that, like, as a violation, like, for wasting our time. And if you call us again, we're going to have a serious talk. And at this point, right, the Karen is like, this is unacceptable! And balls up her fist and literally starts swinging and punching at the officers. And they're like, ma'am, like, stop this. And the Karen runs away, right? Doesn't sprint out of there, but like waddles quickly. And the male Karen starts blocking the 2 police officers, like, you stay away from my wife. Right, so this woman just called the cops on a bunch of kids and then started like swinging on these officers, making contact with their face. Bro, pro tip to not get arrested. Don't punch a police officer. Trust me, you'll be better off not doing that. But anyways, right, you know, these 2 officers are kind of like trying to push through. And eventually, right, the male Karen escapes into her car. And at this point, right, they're both like, Karen drives away. But, the female Karen drives away. The male Karen is still there. At this point, all the kids have stopped and they're like, oh my God, it's a fight. Let's go watch. So everyone, like, is looking around. And at this point, the male Karen is, like, being interrogated by the police, basically being like, where do you guys live? He's like, I'm not saying anything. He's like, sir, like, if you cooperate, it'll be, like, it won't be as bad. And that's when one of the parents says, I recognize those people. Like, they, like, cause problems for my cousins. Because they're, like, I guess their cousins live in the neighborhood, too. Like, apparently they're always, like, throwing stuff over the fence. being like really obnoxious neighbors, and she's like, I know exactly where they live. So at this point, right, the male Karen's like, no, and the police get into the car and they drive over to where like the Karen is actually at. And at this point, right, the party's completely derailed, and all the kids, like, the kid, like, Ken speaks to the kid of the mom who knows where the Karen's lives, and Ken's like, dude, where do these people live? And the kid's like, dude, they only live like 2 blocks away. So all the kids are like, bye, Mom, we'll see you later. And the parents are like, wait, no. All the kids like start running down in that direction. And they run down there. And once they get down there, the police are already there and they're knocking on the door. Police officer's like, ma'am, you cannot assault one of us and then run away. That is literally unacceptable. And she responds back, I am your elder, and I don't need to listen to you. And also, I am a woman, you should respect me. And this is very disrespectful. You know it's important to be courteous to ladies like myself. At this point, the officers are like, ma'am, we treat everyone equally here. We're taking you in either way. She's like, no, that's not courteous to the ladies. No. And they're like, ma'am, we're going to have to if you don't open this door, we don't want to break it down. We don't want to cause damage to your property. Trust me, we're going to get, I know that we're going to get, a bunch of nonsense from you. But at the end of the day, we're coming in one way or another. So either you open this door or we're opening it. And she says, you'll have to fight my husband first. And that's when the officers turn around. And the male Karen walks up on both of them. He's like, you stay away from my house or my wife. And he punches one in the face. However, right, you might be like, oh my God, was it a Mike Tyson at his prime knockout? No, it was imagine you tape a pillow onto your fist and you do a slow motion punch in the direction of someone with a pillow on your fist. That was the equivalent of the punch. But that was enough for the officers to be like, all right now. So one of them puts the old guy in handcuffs. He's like, no. He's like, Karen, or whatever her actual name was, escape. It's too late for me, my love. You must get out of here. And she's like, no, Steven, no. And you could hear the garage door open, right? She's trying to walk out the garage door when the police officers were right next to it. The door was right next to the garage door, but she thought that she could outrun the officers. So she starts waddling out. She's like, don't do anything that wouldn't be courteous to the ladies. You'll regret doing that. The police officer's like, ma'am, please. Ma'am, please. Come on now, ma'am. Please stop. And she's like, no, you must stop. And she continues to waddle down the street, right? So at this point, all the kids are like, you know what? We're helping the officers. Screw this. This lady destroyed the birthday party. So all the kids, they don't touch the woman or anything, right? They keep their distance. But they basically make a human wall around, basically blocking her in from walking on the sidewalk or turning over to the street. The Karen's like, you evil little children, get out of my way. This is not very courteous to the ladies. Your parents have taught you nothing about manners. They should have taught you that you have to be courteous to ladies, and this is not courteous to ladies. And at this point, right, all the kids are just screaming and laughing because, bro, this is the most fun they've ever had. They're involved in a police investigation, basically. So they're blocking this woman off. They're making a human shield. And that's when the officer comes up behind her and is like, ma'am, please make this easy. And she's like, if you put me in handcuffs, my husband. And the officer's like, ma'am, your husband's already been detained. She turns around. She's like, no. And she's like, I'm going to run through these kids at full speed. If you don't arrest. Immediately puts her in cuffs. Boom. And bro, I don't know what she was thinking when she's like, I know what I'll do. I'll threaten these kids. Okay, bro, the officer's gonna be like, you know what, ma'am? After threatening those kids, I've really come to realize that you're a rational individual and we should have a cordial discussion over a cup of hot tea to decide what will come from. No. False. That just didn't happen, bro. That just did. She got arrested, bro, in the cuffs. Out of here. Karen gets out of here. Anyways, all the kids are cheering. The parents rush over because, they were walking over and they were slower than the kids. And they're like, kids, never do that again. Like, oh, that was so dangerous. And the officer goes over and they're like, we should like, just from us, from the boys, like just like from the police force, we want to let you know, like, thanks to these kids, we're able to stop the Karen. Obviously, right, kids weren't necessary. The police officer could have easily got the Karen, but they wanted to make it like a cool thing for like the kid's birthday. And they're like, we just want to let you know. And he kind of like bends down on his knees to all the kids, like, you boys are all honorary officers today. And they're all like, oh my God, we're on it, whatever, right? And they turn to the birthday boy and they're like, we just want to let you know that, like, we wish you a super happy birthday or whatever, right? So it's a pretty cool birthday, and they kind of turn it around. They bring it back to the house, and they kind of, like, have a bit of, like, a little bit more of a celebration, right? They go back to, like, the lightsabers. They go back to, it's, like, 4. It's getting late. They jump in the pool. They actually break the Death Star piñata. That's kind of fun or whatever. And at that point, right, the parents come over and, they're talking about what happened when the kids were over there. The parents are like, that was dangerous. Like, that woman was clearly deranged. Like, you don't know what she would have done. But they're like, you guys did, like, a good thing, so it can't be too mad. Anyways, right, Ken and his mom drive back home. And they sit down at the dinner table, and Ken's dad gets back from work. And he's like, so, Ken, how did the birthday party go? And Ken's mom just breaks out laughing. And, Ken's dad's like, why's your mom laughing, Ken? So the first subscriber we're going to call Jason. And anyways, in Jason's class, there's a kid. And this kid was kind of a little bit entitled, but the reason why he was entitled was because he had a massive Karen mom. Like, and I don't mean like massive physically, I don't know that, but like she was such a Karen, like the biggest Karen ever. And so anyways, right, there was a test that was coming up. It wasn't even that big of a test. It was kind of more like a quiz, but you had to do like 10 minutes of studying to be good for it. Like maybe some kids need to do 20 or something. But the average person in the class needed to do 10 minutes of studying to know like the 5 or 6 vocab words they were going to be quizzed on, right? And the thing was, this kid who we're just going to call the entitled kid, just didn't feel like doing that 5 to 6 minutes. You know what? Sometimes I've not studied for quizzes in class that I really could have easily studied for. And at the end of the day, that just sometimes happens. We all make mistakes. However, the entitled kid decides that in class, he's just going to cheat. So anyways, Jason's sitting in class. He's waiting for the teacher to walk around and hand out kind of like the word, like the piece of paper. Basically, the way it works is he says a really fancy word, and then you have to write down the definition for it. It has to basically be the dictionary definition or close to it. You can't really guess and get away with it. So as, the teacher's going around handing out papers, Jason looks over and sees the entitled kid, kind of fumble around, with his hoodie. And he's like, okay, that's kind of weird. So the teacher goes to the front of the class and he starts reading aloud the words. And Jason is like writing down the definitions because he knows them by heart. He doesn't need to he doesn't need to cheat or anything. He doesn't have to really try. He just knows these definitions from studying. But Jason looks around and he sees the entitled kid take his sleeve and pull it down. And Jason could see that there was 5 things written very clearly on his arm in like Sharpie or whatever. So sure enough, right, the teacher says like the second word, the third word, and after the third word, Jason writes it down and he looks up and he sees the teacher staring at a student and he looks over and sure enough, the teacher is looking at Jason who's writing the stuff on his arm and walks over immediately, like grabs his sleeve before he could pull it up. And is like, Jason, like, entitled kid, he says his actual name, but he's like, entitled kid, are you cheating? And the kid's like, no. He's like, okay, you're coming with me. Because you can't really get yourself out of it. I mean, you literally wrote down on your arm saying, like, you wrote down all the answers on your arm. There's no way you're getting out of this, bro. I hate to break it to you, but there's no way that you're getting out of this. So anyways, right, the teacher brings this entitled kid to the front of the office, kind of like reports him or whatever. They document the case, and it's not like the biggest deal ever. However, right, the kid gets like a yelling at, and like his mom's called, and probably the biggest thing is that the teacher has a policy, and it's kind of the school-wide policy. If you're caught cheating, you get a 0. And the thing is, right, it wasn't a huge assignment. Like, look, getting a 0 on anything when it comes to your grades is not a good thing, right? It will definitely bring down your average significantly. However, it wasn't like a major assessment that was going to keep him at an F or a D no matter what he did. He was going to be okay. However, the entitled kid's Karen mom was not a fan of this, and she went really, really far. So anyways, skip ahead to the next day. Jason and all of his friends and everyone at the school, they're sitting in this kind of like auditorium type place because it is like the school meeting. They have it every Wednesday morning where basically the principal comes on stage, says any announcements. If the school has any like performances, like, I don't know, the arts or theater or something want to show off or something, or they have a special guest speaker, it's kind of just a time once a week where the entire school comes together and kind of just goes over everything. However, this kind of like, we're going to call it a morning meeting, went super crazy and went super wrong because it was hijacked by an insane Karen. Anyways, right, so Jason's just sitting there. He's not really thinking anything of it. One of his friends is actually talking about how the entitled kid, like, I saw him, like, I was in, like, Mr. Marsh's math class, and I was sitting by the door seat, and I was able to see him dragged out by the teacher, and, like, the entitled kid was, like, saying that he wasn't cheating. The teacher was like, dude, you have it, like, written on your arm. Okay, maybe the teacher didn't say dude, but you know what I mean? And the kid goes on to say, yeah, and I heard that he was, like, his mom was on the phone with him, and she was yelling, and the kid got a 0. Jason's like, yeah, dude, that happened in my class. It was pretty crazy. So anyways, right, the principal goes on stage, is like, hey, school, or like, I don't know, Springfield Elementary, Simpsons reference, right? Welcome to, like, it is, like, January 14th, happy Wednesday, today's announcements are, and that's when someone storms on stage. It's a woman with a Karen haircut, so you already know what's coming, right? A woman with a Karen haircut, aviator sunglasses, a big flower dress, a bag on her shoulder, and these little shoes, right? Goes pop, 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 goes on stage and snatches the microphone out of the principal's hand and says, I am entitled kid's mother, says the actual name of the kid. I'm entitled kid's mother, and I'm making a public announcement that I am suing this school for malpractice, which I don't think that's the right word, but whatever. And everyone's like, what? And then, like, everyone in the audience is kind of talking. They're like, what, bro? What's going on? And the principal is looking at her. So obviously, this was not part of the itinerary. The principal is like, okay, first thing, I come on. And then second thing, this woman decides to randomly ram on stage and say she's suing the school. And third thing is the arts performance. No, this was crazy. This was out of the blue. And the principal looks at her and is like, ma'am, like, I don't know who you are. What is this? And she said, I am entitled kid's mom. And yesterday he was falsely failed on an assignment where he deserved a 100% because he was going to get all the answers right. You have a corrupt staff here, and I'm going to sue the school for every penny that they have. And the woman literally starts, like, running, doesn't run off stage, but, like, angrily, like, stomps off stage. And everybody turns to Entitled Kid, because Entitled Kid was sitting in the audience. And Entitled Kid is literally just staring straight ahead. Like, kids are talking at him, they're pointing at him. He's not paying any attention. He's got laser focus in front of him. He's just like, all right, tunnel vision. I'm not paying attention to any of it. So Jason turns to his friend and is like, dude, what? And his friend's like, yeah, I can't imagine this is actually happening. Like, this is going way too far. Next day comes around, and we go back to Jason and Entitled Kid's English class where this whole thing went down. So Entitled Kid wasn't there that day, and it was, or at least in the beginning, Entitled Kid didn't show up. And the teacher addresses the class. He's like, hey, class, we're going to go into, like, our regular content in just a second, but, I got to address the elephant in the room. Most of you, I assume, and I hope, that were at morning meeting yesterday, and you probably witnessed, something that is kind of related to our class going down. A mother of one of our students, who happens not to be here, coincidence, I think not, has decided to sue the school for, me giving her son a 0% or failing him because he was cheating. That is a school-wide policy. In fact, I think many schools have that policy. I do not think the lawsuit will go through, but I just want to let you guys know that some of you guys might be asked of your perspective. You might have to do some interviews, and there might be some lawyers present coming around if this goes anywhere. I really don't think it will, but I just thought I'd let you guys know. In the middle of the sentence, door goes boom, door opens up, and two lawyers walk in with the Karen mom and the entitled kid. And the Karen mom is like, "Hello, Mr. Davenport." And he's like, "Oh, hello, Miss Entitled Kid," or "Hello, Miss Karen." And she's like, "I and my two lawyers will be accompanying my son today in your class." And they all four of them go to the back of the room. The entitled kid sits down, the Karen sits down, and the two lawyers just kind of stand there awkwardly. And the teacher's like, "Okay, ma'am, like, did you run this through with the front of the school?" And she laughs. She's like, "Ha ha ha, why would I need to run it through the front of the school? I'm suing you guys. All of your assets and money and employees will be mine soon enough. So does it really matter?" And he's like, "Ma'am, like, this is disruptive to the class. I don't think I can teach in this environment. Did you run this through at the front of the school?" And she says, "I was planning on just suing the school, but if you make me mad enough, I will sue you as an individual as well." And the teacher's like, "Ma'am, please, like, for the sake of learning for not just your son, but all of his classmates, can we please not do this? Like, I don't know why you need a lawyer here. Maybe one lawyer, but do you all need to be here?" And she said, "You're making me quite mad. Teach." And the teacher's like, "Okay," and he makes a little note to himself, probably like to call the principal, make sure this doesn't happen again. But Jason, it tells me that this is probably the most awkward English class he has ever sat through. Like, this might be the worst English class that he has ever been through in his life. Because he's sitting there, the teacher is super uncomfortable at this point. Teacher is super uncomfortable, and everyone's just staring. Like, no one's paying attention to him. They're all turned around looking at the lawyers, the Karen, and the entitled kid. And the entitled kid isn't even paying attention. He's on his phone. But I don't think the teacher was trying to stir up any more controversy, because imagine the teacher's like, "Entitled kid, get off your phone." The Karen would be like, "That's blasphemy. Sue him for all he's got, officers." Or, I don't know, she'd do something stupid like that. So yeah, sure enough, they actually try, bring it to court. So over the next couple weeks, the Karen files like an actual complaint in front of a judge. And a lot of the rest of the story is not from Jason's firsthand account. It's just from Jason's mom, Jason's friend, and what he's kind of heard around. So there's going to be some details that might not have actually been true to the story, but it's just what Jason was told. So basically what Jason was told was that, what happened was that, the Karen tried to bring it to court, and it was brought before a judge. And it was filed incorrectly or something. So they get there, and it's the teacher, it's the school administration, and then it's the Karen and the lawyers. And the Karen goes on, the judge is kind of like, "All right, let's hear what it is." And the Karen goes on to say, "Yes, Your Honor, my son was caught cheating in class." And he's like, "Okay. And he was failed improperly. I'm suing the school for all it's worth." The judge is like, "What?" And she's like, "What? No, you didn't hear me. They failed my son, so I'm suing the school for all it's worth." "Well, that doesn't make sense. What part of that do you need clarification on?" And the judge is like, "Ma'am, you can't, that's not a thing. You can't sue the school for that. That's nonsense. You don't even have, a reason to sue them." She said, "Well, because they were very distressing to my son." And he's like, "Do you have any, psychological documentation?" She's like, "No, just look at him." And the spoiled kid, or the entitled kid who's apparently sitting there, is kind of like, "What, bro? Do I really look that bad? What are you talking about? Pause, bro, what?" And sure enough, the judge is like, "This case is ridiculous," and they throw it out. So a couple weeks later, the spoiled kid comes into class, because or the entitled kid, he's actually been gone for 2 weeks, because after that first time with the Karen and the lawyers, the principal basically made a deal saying, "Hey, this kid won't be checked as absent, but he can't be coming in with his lawyers and you, ma'am." And the Karen's like, "Fine, we'll focus on suing your butts." And they failed, right? So the entitled kid comes into class one day with no lawyers and no Karens, and he very awkwardly sits at the back of the class. And the teacher's like, "Oh, entitled kid, welcome back. You're just in time for our next vocab test." And sure enough, right, the teacher hands it out, and the entitled kid is like, "Well, I didn't have a chance to study for this one." And the teacher is like, hold his breath a little bit. He's like, "Well, isn't that just too bad?" So the second story, I'm going to call the subscriber Josh. And Josh and his subscriber, Josh was younger, and, Josh and the subscriber, Josh and his mom, Josh and the subscriber, they decided to set up a lemonade stand. But if you don't know, to, like, sell stuff like that, like, you need, like, permits or something, technically. But the truth is, who's going to care? It's a little kid with a lemonade stand. So anyways, Josh is out there, and he has his lemonade stand, and he was planning all weekend to set it up. So it was a really big deal to him. Like, it was really cool. He went and bought the lemonade, or the lemons, and the sugar, and the water, and the pitchers, and got all the cups, and he got the cardboard cutouts, and the pens, and he decided the prices. And basically, his parents were like, okay, we'll pay for everything you need, but, like, we're going to need the money back that we spent. You get to take anything extra. So they made sure they did the math with him to make sure he made profit. So this was cool. This is, like, first little business experience, and he was really excited. So they decided to put their lemonade stand on the corner of the block that they lived on, and people and cars would drive by and walk by, and many people stopped because Josh was a little kid, and he was, like, super cute or whatever, and they're like, oh, sure, whatever, we'll buy your overpriced, terrible lemonade to make that little boy smile. You know how it is. And that's when the neighborhood Karen very, like, entitledly walked over. I don't know if that's, like, an actual word, entitledly, I don't think so. But if it is, if it's not, we're going to make it one, and we're going to apply it to the walk. She was walking super entitled. Whatever that means, imagine it, and that's what it is, right? So she was walking over, and she's like, hello there, young man. You guys are selling lemonade? And the mom's like, yes, ma'am, would you like some? She says, no, these prices are quite ridiculous. Which, like, dude, shut up. But, the mom is like, oh, okay, well, I'm sorry, we can't do business. And Josh was, like, all sad or whatever. And she's like, you know what? Show me your license. The mom's like, what? And Josh is kind of like, in his head, he's like, what's a license? She said, you have a stand, you have a food stand, you're selling stuff to other people on my block. My block, of course, whatever. Show me your license. What's your vendor's license for operation here? And the mom's like, ma'am, this is just a little lemonade stand I'm doing with my son. We don't have a license. She said, oh, so you don't have a license? And she pulls out her phone. And she's like, well, I'm so sorry to ruin your little fun parade, but I must keep the safety of my friends and family in the neighborhood as a top priority. And the Karen whips out her phone and calls 911. Bro, what? Real quick, comment Karen down below if you made it this far into the video. I'll try and heart a bunch of comments. If you want to know how to really support the channel, watch a bunch of videos. Like, sit down and watch a bunch of videos. And comment down below, how many videos have you watched today? Or if you want to, how many videos have you watched this week? I just like to know who's supporting the channel by watching a bunch of videos, and I just want to say thank you. Also, use code ConnorPugs on GamerSupps for 10% off. You can get really good energy drinks and also other apparel. If you use the code, it helps me, but it also helps you. And if enough of us use the code, we might be able to make our own custom cup, which is pretty cool. And also, we're on Spotify, and if you want to listen to it on the go, or you dislike Spotify, please make sure to go check that out. It's in the description. Send stories to my Instagram and join the Discord server. All the fun stuff's in the description of this video, and let's get back to the story. So anyways, right at this point, the Karen has whipped out her phone, and she's calling 911. And Josh's mom is basically pleading with her, like, ma'am, please, this is my fun, like, my son and I are doing this. Trust me, we got all of our ingredients from trusted sources. Nothing's gonna hurt anyone. Like, what? Well, like, this is, like, ridiculous. This is, like, can you please just not do that? And eventually, she's on the phone with 911. She's like, hello, officers, I would like to report a disturbance. It is incredibly important. Someone is selling a food without a license, and I think it's making everyone sick. Please come to, I don't know, the corner of 7-8 Pleasant Drive Avenue Street runway, whatever, right? And so the officers are like, yeah, okay, we'll be right there. Because they think that someone's selling, like, pink sauce or something. I don't know, man. And so sure enough, right, the Karen stands there. It's like, I'm going to wait here to make sure the officers destroy this stand. And Josh is starting to tear up a little bit. He's a little kid. And Josh's mom kind of, like, squeezes his hand and is like, ma'am, like, this is ridiculous. Like, what if your grandkids did this? Like, would you want someone calling the cops on them? She said, yes, absolutely. If they were being a harm to my community, then yes. And then, Josh's mom, or Josh is like, do you have any grandkids? She's like, well, no, but if I did, I'd totally want them arrested right now. And Josh's mom's like, okay, well, that figures. And she's like, look, ma'am, what is the point of this? My son just wants to learn a little business experience, right? Just a little business experience. Like, there's no reason for you to be doing this. And she said, there is plenty of reason for me to be doing this. This is ridiculous on your part. You're basically saying that you should be allowed to poison everyone and I should just die in a hole. And Josh's mom's like, what? What? When did I say that? Are you serious? And she's like, what? Well, poison everyone, die in a hole. What are you talking about? And the Karen's like, oh, here come the officers now. And so sure enough, a police car starts coming down towards them. And Josh is a little scared at this point because he's just a little kid. The police officer stops over and gets out. And he's like, I got a call about an unlicensed vendor. And the Karen's like, officer, right here, officer. I'm the one who called. The officer's like, yeah, okay, what's up? Like, where's this vendor? Is it down there? And the Karen's like, right here. And she points to the lemonade stand with the little kid who's crying and the mom. She says, tear down this lemonade stand. Kick it down. Destroy it. They don't have a license, officer. They don't have a license. The officer, with his sunglasses on, his big bushy mustache, is just looking at the Karen. He's like, ma'am, did you really call me over here to bust down a little kid's lemonade stand? And she says, but officer, they don't have a license to operate like this. They're super illegal. And the officer's like, ma'am, I'm not going to shut down a little kid's lemonade stand. Normally, the 911 line is used for actual emergencies, not busting this little kid's fun day. And the Karen's like, what did you say to me? He's like, you're wasting my time. She says, say it one more time. And the Karen waddles over to the officer. And the officer's like, yeah, you're wasting my, boom. Karen literally socks him in the face with her, doesn't actually do that much damage because she's like a Karen and has zero power, right? But the officer, she's like, that's what you get for disrespecting your elder. In the middle of that, officer turns her around, puts her in handcuffs. She's like, what? What are you doing? This is ridiculous. I'm not the one breaking the law. And she's like, what? And the officer's like, well, actually, you just socked me in the face. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. Okay, he didn't say pretty sure. She's like, yeah. He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you just socked me in the face. Like, you're coming with me. And she didn't get, like, life or anything, but just, like, she was taken away, right? And the Karen, the entire time she's being put into the cop car, she's like, I'll come for your stand. I'll come for you. If they're not going to break down this stand and save humanity, I'll do it myself. Which, bro, save humanity. Calm down, Superman. You're not saving anything out here. You're just bored. You're bored and mean. So anyways, the officer, when he gets in the car, closes the door with the Karen screaming, comes over and says, ma'am, little boy kind of kneels down, looks at Josh, like, I'm so sorry you guys had to deal with this woman. Like, yes, technically, you need a license to be a street vendor, but this is very clearly not an operation like that. Like, just like, if we get any other calls about you, we'll try and dismiss them, but I'm sorry you had to deal with this today. And he said, oh, lemonade for $3? Yeah, you know what? I think I could get a glass. And you hear the Karen go, bum, 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 banging on the glass. Be like, no, it's poison. It's poison. Bum, 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 bum. The officer's like, okay, whatever. And he hands the $3 over. And, Josh's mom looks at Josh. Is like, hey, Josh, like, why don't you pour the nice officer a glass on the lemonade? And Josh goes over, pours in the lemonade, hands it to him. And, the officer takes a sip. Is like, oh, wow. This is really good. Thank you so much. Anyways, guys, have a nice day. And the officer drives off with the Karen. And no, the Karen was released later that day. Like, it wasn't actually that big of a deal. But yeah, they pulled down their stand in time. And apparently, Josh's mom told them this later, but Josh's mom was walking their dog when she saw the Karen standing where the stand used to be. Because they took it down after a couple of hours. They only planned to do it for like 4 hours or something. And the Karen was like waving her fists and yelling or whatever. Apparently the Karen, once she was released, immediately went back to the scene, probably to try and kick down the stand herself, which is kind of ridiculous. But hey, man, Karens be Karens. That's just
Click
how
on the
it
video on
goes.
screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.